Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanee and Clarky visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Oh, I'm well, thank you.
Well.
And yourselves? How are you both?
Oh, not too bad, yeah.
A little cheery after a couple of rosés and a sad story.
Well, it was sort of uplifting. He got off in the end, but it was only by absolute miracle, frankly, but yeah.
Yeah, but MP didn't.
Oh, I know, that was bad. Yeah, true. Yes, as Swanee said at the outset, someone has to die for this to be a story.
I know, I'm just sorry
God.
that I murdered her name from the
Yeah.
outset, but hopefully it got a bit better.
Oh, can you just say something for me, Swanee? Can you say Monica?
Monica?
Yeah, say it again, Monica.
Not monkey, huh?
Monica? Oh, I did say that. Oh, sorry. Oh, I know Monica.
Would that be his gang Monica, not his gang Monkey?
Yeah,
As that came out, no, it wasn't. No, and do you know what? I actually didn't know that was wrong. But as it came out, I thought, fuck, I've got a feeling. Anyway,
all
what
good.
did I say?
Monkey. It was just
Monkey.
very funny.
That was his street monkey or something.
Oh.
Okay, so yes, sorry listeners, we're doing it back to back, and we're still processing the last episode. So yes, I don't really have any news in the 5 minutes that I went to the bathroom in between. Anyone else? Anything amazing happen for you?
I can't say that I heard. Yeah.
Literally
Okay.
nothing.
All right.
Big fat zero.
Yeah,
All
big
right,
fat
well, on that, we
zilch.
might introduce ourselves. I'm Schmitty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarky. And together we are
Trial by
Wine.
Ooh, very exciting. That was good. And what are we drinking?
We're polishing off the bottle of rosé that we started with in the last episode, and then we were umming and ahhing about whether we should rip the scab off another one, but we'll see how the story goes.
Fair enough. And Swanee, have you finished either of your cans?
No, I finished the Coke. I'm now just still finishing off the sparkling water. How riveting for our listeners.
Oh, you Swanee one can.
Yeah, I know. I've gone.
Because you were two cans.
Very quiet.
The fundamental problem with this fancy bottle of rosé is
Schmitty,
it's got
you having a drinking problem?
this very pretty bottle with a funny little glass stopper.
Is it the
and
glass
I can't
top?
get it
Yeah, the
out.
glass top. I hate the glass
it out.
stopper.
Maybe 2 thumbs.
Oh, and then you'll break the top
thumbs
or
of
something,
champagne.
and glass
Oh my
shards will
God,
end up.
it's just
I
impossible
hate
to
them.
open.
That's enough reason not to buy
got it
them.
out. Jesus.
2 thumbs.
You got to lube it first.
Yeah, good idea. Might just leave it out for now. Yeah, I'm still on the Gerard Bertrand Côte de Roses, which is okay. It's not bad.
But how much have you got left? Are you halfway through? Are we on the same?
I've just
Oh, yeah,
poured a
right.
glass
Well
from
done.
that, though.
We're on about the
So
same
Look at us.
shout
I would
then.
say I had 2 glasses in the last episode.
Yeah.
All right, whose story is it?
Pick me.
Clarky.
I've got one.
Oh, okay.
No!
Yay! Thank you. Woohoo! Alrighty, well, how about we go with my story?
Yeah, let's do that.
Today, I'm going to continue the theme of places we visited. And you recall last time we were in Malta and we did the terrible murder of Daphne Caruana Galizia.
Yeah.
That came up on the Daily Mail the other day.
So, as
Did you believe it?
Really?
Yeah, like, you know,
did it
a couple of
really?
stories down, I looked at it and I thought, is that? And I was like, yeah, I knew the name. And I was like, yeah, it was. They were talking about something on the Daily Mail of all things.
Anyway, so as we were on our way out of Malta to head to our next country, we missed our flight. So we're stuck in Malta and we're going to have another Maltese story. Also, because when I was looking at strange Maltese crimes, this one was
Standout?
was very high up as well. So I'll tell you about it. I'd love to tell you that it's going to be hilarious. However, that would be
lying.
fraudulent.
Right.
Although, if you can make it hilarious for our listeners, that would be
Okay,
great.
give it a go.
Can I just say one thing? We're going to end up
Yes.
with, like we've had cruise crimes, we're going to end up with Maltese murders. I don't know. It depends.
Murders.
Maltese.
Maltesers. That's enough Maltesers. I like it.
Okay, so let me tell you about my sources. So first up, Times Malta, The Shift, Reddit, Scarlet Blog. Now, I've got to say right off the bat, Scarlet Blog did an amazing telling of this story, and so I've used it a lot. I've reworded bits of it, but full credit goes to the writer of Scarlet Blog, who I couldn't find her full name.
Scarlet?
I think it was R. Scarlet. Yeah, I think Scarlet was the surname.
Okay.
Malta Independent, Truth Be Told, Ancient Origins, and the Evidence Locker podcast. And Swanee, similar to yours, guess what's missing?
Wikipedia.
Wiki.
Wikipedia.
Lad Bible.
And that's because Scarlet Blog, just the way the timeline of it and everything, she did a really good job of putting it all together.
And look,
So,
no disrespect to
Scarlet
Scarlet Blog,
yeah, good job to
but
her.
it does sound a bit like blob. It's just got connotations of a really bad period.
So I'm going to tell you the story of Mike Mansholt, which takes us all the way back to July 2016. It's only 7 years ago. So at the time, Mike is a 17-year-old teenager. He's quiet, fun-loving, conscientious, and adventurous. He's just finished school and finished top of his class. So clearly he's a smart kid too. His father instilled a wanderlust in him as a young boy, taking him on overseas trips, including a 2-year-long sailing adventure when he was 6 years old. So Mike is no stranger to travel. His parents are divorced and his father is remarried, but he has a good relationship with both parents. In fact, all parents, including the
Steps.
The school holidays are upon Mike, and whilst he's looking forward to his holiday, he has a lot to look forward to when they end. And Swanee, I have concerns that maybe one day you're going to have to run 3 boys who are like Mike around. He has an apprenticeship with Airbus, the plane builders, something he had to beat hundreds of applicants to get. He also has plans to travel to Iceland to run his first marathon with his father. However, his immediate plan is to head to Malta to meet up with his girlfriend, who is studying there. He plans to stay for approximately 2 weeks and flies out on the 8th of July. Mike leaves his mum to fly to Malta, and at the same time his dad is holidaying in Croatia. So he's getting around him. He's got
Where
big
were they
plans.
from initially?
Germany.
I missed that.
Did I say that? I did not. Excellent question. No,
I
you didn't miss
assumed
that.
you said it. I was embarrassed. I was like, God, I've really missed where they're from. Because at
I
first I
missed
was like,
his
are they
last name too. It sort of dropped
Mike.
out for a sec. Mike what?
Mike Mansholt.
Okay, thanks.
So, Swanee, we often talk about how you're running around,
Yes, mum's taxi.
from this to that with your kids and everything. And I feel like that, you're going to have to run them from Germany to Iceland to do a marathon and then down to Malta to meet his girlfriend.
They'd be lucky at this
We
point.
need to find an extraction plan for you.
Oh, God.
Oh.
I'd happily do the travel, but yes, you've got to be better than driving them around the suburbs to do different sports and things.
Yeah, true.
I'd take that.
All right, so where did we get to? Oh, yes, okay. So fast forward 2 weeks, and Mike's mum and sister are waiting at Bremen Airport, excited to see him again. His flight is LH360 from Frankfurt to Bremen and is scheduled to land at around 10:15 p.m. However, the flight is delayed for hours, and his mother and sister are becoming anxious due to the delays. And then the announcement comes that the flight is cancelled altogether. This comes as a surprise as they've not heard anything from Mike, who would normally have phoned to advise of any delay at his end. They assume he's stuck in Frankfurt and call him to make sure he's okay, but his phone is dead. They call again and again, still nothing. Mike's mum speaks to the airline and finds out that not only is he not in Frankfurt, but he never made the flight from Malta to Frankfurt. By now, she is super worried and goes to Oldenburg police station, where she reports him missing at 2 a.m. The police are concerned about what his mother tells them and list him as a missing person straight away, giving the case a high priority. As part of the investigation, they reach out to the Maltese police, who advise that he's been missing for the past 4 days.
Oh, my God.
In fact, he was last seen... He was last seen on the island when he rented a bike on July 18th, but never returned. The hotel manager reported him missing when she became aware that he hadn't returned. The case is handed over to Germany's international police, the BKA. I had a lot of trouble with BKA because of BTK, but it's BKA.
Okay.
So let's not get that confused. And Interpol become involved. When Mike's dad learns of his disappearance, He gets the first flight available to Malta along with Mike's brother Daniel. They have a stopover at Frankfurt and take the opportunity to speak to police to see if they know anything, which they don't. He's understandably worried, particularly because his phone is dead, because Mike's phone is dead. Perhaps he was robbed or he lost his phone and he missed his flight. That's, I guess, the optimistic viewpoint that his father takes. He continues on to Malta, where he gets further details of the investigation and is updated as to Mike's last movements. So let's talk about Mike's last known movements. Mike stays in a hostel in Salima in the east of Malta. It's located on the northeast coast of Malta in the Northern Harbour District. It is a major residential and commercial area and a centre for shopping, bars, dining and cafe life. I feel like it's kind of the place that we would like to stay at when we go to Malta.
Nice.
The hotel is called the Astra Hotel, and CCTV in the hotel records Mike leaving on the morning of July 18th. He leaves his room
Where's his girlfriend?
at 8:39 a.m. I can't remember. She was studying there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember, but it's not
she's
relevant
gone.
to
Okay.
the case.
You should ask the what is it, Kriminalamt. That's what you should do.
The BKA.
The Bundeskriminalamt.
I just went with the acronym because I thought I'm going to make him
It's really hard to say.
myself.
Bundeskriminalamt something.
Yeah.
Was ist mein
Yeah, I mean,
Handy?
there was no-
Bundeskriminalamt.
You're very
Sorry.
good at that, Schmitty.
It's Stephen
I
Fry.
love your mind handy.
Stephen Fry. I'm stealing from him big
It's
time.
so good.
Yeah.
I don't care. I
hilarious.
love the way you do it. He leaves his room at 8:39 a.m. At 9:10 a.m., Mike returns to the reception to pay for his stay. He goes back to his room and then stays there for a little bit, less than an hour, before locking his door and leaving the hotel through the lobby at 9:55. He can be seen walking away on the CCTV footage of the hotel wearing a blue T-shirt, his backpack slung over his shoulder, and carrying his mobile phone in his hand. His black backpack contains his GoPro camera and valuables. It is a warm, sunny day. The sky is cloudless. He walks to the harbour nearby and rents a mountain bike for a full day. It is of the brand Lombardo 270 and in the colours black and blue. Word is that he wants to go to the town of Rabat, which has a famous underground catacombs with ancient tombs. At 10:11 a.m, he sends a message through WhatsApp. It is a voice message to an unknown person. His message, word for word, although translated from German, says, "Okay, I'm renting a bike and driving through Malta today. However, the roads are so steep. I'll send you a photo shortly. You can only walk up them in some parts. With the bike, it's not possible, but it does not matter. It's a sporting challenge, and I like that." So remember, he's going to do a marathon in Iceland, so he's pretty fit. This is the last thing the police know of Mike's movements. So Bernd, his dad, and Daniel keep in close contact with the police, following their steps as best they can. They also start helping local search groups who are searching for Mike. All of Malta's islands are searched and police check if Mike took any ferries or local planes. Flyers are distributed everywhere and tips are traced. One man in hospital hallucinating on medication claims, for instance, to have seen Mike. "I thought I saw his face," the sick man says, before falling asleep again. But his claims are quickly ruled false. Another man says he saw Mike in a local drugs bar, but when not a single witness confirms his story, it is also quickly cast aside again. Bernd, however, follows up on every single lead and tip he receives. Police also try to keep Mike's mother informed about all the developments, but according to their written report, she is overcome with fear and too emotional to talk, which is quite understandable, really. So, on July the 24th, the BKA, Mein Handy, checks whether Mike has taken another flight home to Germany. It takes about an hour until results of the inquiry filter back. No flight movements. Mike remains missing. Then on the 26th of July, 8 days after Mike was reported missing, Maltese police receive an anonymous tip about Mike. The source has never been identified or made public. The tip-off leads investigators and Bernd and Daniel to the Dingley Cliffs, 250-metre high cliffs on the island's west coast. The cliffs are the highest point of Malta and overlook the Mediterranean. They're also close to Rabat, which fits the theory that Mike did indeed first go to see the catacombs before heading on to check the lovely view at the cliffs. Search dogs and paramedics are sent to the cliffs, and when Mike's father arrives, TV crews with cameras are already waiting for him. Emergency crews and an ambulance also arrive. After hours of searching, they find the body of Mike at the bottom of the cliffs, hidden under some bushes and under the cliff overhang. The place cannot be seen from above the cliffs. His bike is found in an overhanging bush above his body. It has a flat back tyre and the saddle is twisted, but is otherwise damage-free. Police place the body in a body bag and investigate. Mike's body is barefoot and his shoes and sunglasses are found near the body. However, his backpack cannot be found anywhere, despite investigators knowing for a fact that Mike took it with him on the morning of the 16th of July, as confirmed by hotel staff and CCTV. Now, I did see somewhere that in Germany I wouldn't say it's common, but Mike had hidden his backpack at times when he'd gone riding and then come back and got it so that he didn't have to carry it around with him all day. But whether he would actually do that in a foreign country, there's no evidence that is something he would normally do. So the content of the backpack is also missing, obviously, including Mike's black Samsung Galaxy Note, his GoPro action camera, his credit card, and several €100 in cash, as well as his hat and phone charger. Oddly, there is some fresh hay found next to the body that had not been affected by the sun yet. The farmer who owns this piece of land is interviewed, and Byrne asks him about Mike and the pieces of hay, but he denies knowing anything about it. Byrne asks the farmer about the backpack and says that the farmer behaves strangely towards him, which he tells the police. However, nothing further happens. The missing camera is highly suspicious to Byrne. He says that Mike loved taking photos and recording virtually everything. Byrne believes he would have recorded parts of his mountain bike ride on the day of his disappearance. Mike used to wear the camera in a case attached to his belt, and Burns raises this with a female officer at the scene who says that she did see the GoPro camera's black case strapped on Mike's body with a belt when she was down on the beach below the cliffs. She guarded the body for a long time and declares in front of witnesses to have seen the case on Mike's body. Byrne is hopeful that he'll be able to get the footage, but then finds out that it has not been found, and other police deny that the camera was present on the body. They do not know where the GoPro camera is, and when he challenges the female officer, she suddenly denies to have ever said that she saw the case. The police's first theory is that Mike fell down the cliff and made a tumble with his bike. To Byrne, this seems unlikely, as the location of the body makes it hard to imagine that he took a straight fall. It would be impossible to end up where the body was found, hidden well under the overhang. So if you can imagine, there's a overhang of the cliff and he's ended up somehow under it. Nevertheless, police right away rule it an accidental death and declare that Mike fell 30-something metres and rolled under the overhang. An employee of a doctor who is present at the scene tells Byrne that Mike's neck is broken in 2 places and the lad would have died a quick death as a result. Funnily enough, Byrne finds this odd, given that no X-ray or autopsy has been performed. Furthermore, the body is unrecognisable at the time due to significant decomposition that has occurred in the Maltese heat. So they actually gave Byrne an opportunity to ID the body, and he couldn't. DNA testing later confirms that it is Mike, but Byrne and the rest of the family have to wait 4 whole weeks for these results. Other findings from the autopsy are that Mike has been dead for 7 to 8 days, and that he has no broken bones anywhere on his body, contradicting the report from the doctor on site. Byrne is understandably surprised at this news and calls the police officer in charge of the investigation to ask about the results, but she is evasive. Byrne grows suspicious after this, as he feels that the questions are not being answered. He also gets the feeling that the local officers want him to leave Malta and the investigation now that his son's body has been found. So they're basically going, oh,
Nothing to see here.
We've worked it all out now. Yeah, you're just a thorn in our side. You should go. After he challenges the police about their changing statements about the GoPro camera, the Maltese forensic department find an old-fashioned digital Canon photo camera and present this to Byrne, asking him to more or less back off and leave them alone. The camera looks nothing like Mike's silver GoPro Hero 2 with 64 gigabytes and is much older. The camera is accompanied by a destroyed memory card, which they say went with the GoPro. Mike's family can now smell a defective detective, or perhaps a defective department. When Byrne asks who could have stolen the rest of Mike's missing possessions, He's told that the people of Malta would never rob a body of its belongings and that tourists must have stolen the backpack.
Foreigners. Gypsies, tramps and thieves.
And thieves. We hear it from the people of the town. Despite his dissatisfaction with the investigation, Bernd needs to return to Germany for a while. So he does. And on the 17th of August, Mike's body arrives back in Germany. 3 days later, on his 18th birthday, he isn't running a marathon in Iceland as originally planned, but he's laying in a casket in Oldenburg. The funeral director raises two immediate concerns. Firstly, the body looks completely sunken in. All the volume is gone. Secondly, Mike isn't embalmed or prepared in any way.
Would he have been? I don't know.
Yeah. So remember, the investigation is still ongoing. And by not embalming the body, Germany now have a very big problem doing a second opinion autopsy. German police are informed and share that they also were suspicious when handling the body at the airport, as it seemed way too light. Mike's remains only weighed about 16 kilos or 35 pounds for those who do pounds when it arrived in Germany. It's actually a requirement that whenever a body is sent from one country to another, that it's fully embalmed before travel, because it'll just continue to decompose the way that this did.
The requirement for the embalming relates to the travel, or relates to it should have been done anyway because of, I don't quite understand.
Should have been done in Malta. I mean, it should have been done anyway.
But should that be done post-autopsy?
Particularly because it's going...
Yes. Or would there not be any
Good
requirement to have one done also is it too late to do anything after it's been embalmed? Yes, I'd assume so, right? Because it's changed the composition of something.
Yeah, so you need to do the embalming even though there's another autopsy to be done.
Oh, you can do that, can you? Okay.
Not doing the embalming prevents that.
Okay. Oh, okay. Rightio, so you have to embalm.
So
I had that wrong way around. I thought it would be the opposite.
Well, because it just decays further. So it's also noted that the body has no organs.
What?
All right?
Ooh. None.
So everything has been taken out. The brain, heart, lungs, liver, pancreas, adrenal glands, right kidney, bladder, prostate, stomach, small intestine, and other organs are all gone.
Why?
And there's only a small fragmented part of the left kidney, the diaphragm, spleen, and colon. And importantly, Mike was not an organ donor. So it is possible that the Maltese coroner took the organs out as part of the autopsy. And so Bernd follows up on this, and a Maltese medical examiner then tells Bernd that the organs were eaten from Mike's body before his body was found.
All of them.
They were what? Eaten?
This is completely
apart
inconsistent.
from a little bit of the colon, a little bit of the kidney, or whatever it was. You know, no, I don't like that so much.
Everything else. Nom,
did you
nom,
say
nom,
you did
nom.
say eaten? I thought you said that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What from?
Rats, like animals.
Okay.
But surely there'd be signs of,
Not to mention the brain.
but there'd be signs of animal bites and stuff.
Oh,
you know, they chew you. They don't just cleanly incise it and remove organs carefully.
It's an excellent point you make. The eating is completely inconsistent with any report to date and was never mentioned by those who found Mike's body on the day. So you would think that somebody would have gone, oh, my God, it's half eaten or whatever.
Poor parents.
That never came up.
Isn't it awful?
Oh, could you imagine?
No, I don't want to. It's a pit.
It's the right reply, Swanee. It's the right reply. You don't want to. The public prosecutor's office in Oldenburg confiscates the body, and what was a missing person case is now a criminal case. The German coroners are also unhappy as they were never given a copy of the report of the autopsy carried out in Malta. They state that due to the missing organs, the second autopsy can only reach extremely limited results, which cannot be compared to the results of the first autopsy. There are so many questions that need answering at this point, and the Mansholts file a complaint through their lawyers calling on the court to order an investigation into how Mike's organs went missing, why they had not been returned with the corpse, and why it had been claimed that the body had been embalmed when it had not. German public prosecutors start working on the case and immediately suspect that a third party killed Mike, and not surprisingly conclude that the Maltese pathologists did a poor job. They also order a new autopsy, done in Germany this time. So medical examiners are present to provide legal certainty. They find no bite marks on the body and no evidence of rodent bites. Schmitty?
Right.
except for a bite on the neck and an abrasion on the forearm. They openly dismiss the possibility of rodents eating the organs. It is also reconfirmed that Mike's body was intact when it was taken from the beach under the cliffs to the morgue in Malta, without wounds or bite marks. But the most important autopsy results are that the body was not embalmed in Malta, and as a result, it is now too far decomposed to determine the cause of death. German investigators conclude that nothing indicates that Mike died from the 30 or so metre fall from the cliffs. There are no large wounds found on his skin. He has no broken bones, no broken ribs, and no soft tissue damage or bruises. His spine was also intact. Internal bleeding cannot be ruled out due to the lack of organs. However, this is considered unlikely, as internal bleeding would have been accompanied by bruises or damage on the outside of the body. They determine that a fall is practically impossible, and they report this. But the Maltese stick to their story. Mike died in a tragic accident from a fall.
And his organs just fell out.
When they did their own autopsy.
They just fell out when he got to hit the bottom.
Out his bottom.
They were eaten.
But when they fell out, it cushioned his fall, so no bones were broken.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that happens.
And Maltese rats leave different bite marks to German rats, so you wouldn't know what you're talking about. Yeah, so Mike died in a tragic accident.
I do think there are Maltese rats in this story. I'm just not there.
Can you smell
the
them?
Animal variety, yeah.
So they say when they did their own autopsy, 3 people were present, including a forensic doctor. The head of the forensic examination in Malta, Professor Mario Scerri. Scerri is a respected man in Malta and has won several awards for his work. Bernd emails the good professor to follow up on the inconsistencies. And the good professor writes back that the organs were already missing before the autopsy. They were eaten by rodents. He says that he shares this information with the head of the investigation in Malta. Dr. Scerri also says that the Germans were wrong to state the body wasn't embalmed, and that his dissectors embalmed the body using a formaldehyde solution as prescribed to my satisfaction. German investigators, however, do not believe that Mike died on the precise location where his body was found. They think that if he fell, he was still alive when he hit the beach and managed to drag himself to a place of shade under the overhang cliff. Suffocation cannot be ruled out as a cause of death by the German investigators. Schmitty, do you want to know why?
Why?
You're very good with this sort of stuff. Because Mike's hyoid bone is also missing.
What
Oh
bone
my
is that?
God, you're shitting me.
Do you know about the hyoid
Yeah, when
bone?
you strangle someone, there's a little bone that breaks in, and that's
So, yeah, the hyoid bone is a little U-shaped bone in the throat that usually breaks during
Strangulation,
strangulation.
yeah, okay.
it's missing. It's not even broken. It's just not there.
we don't know. We don't know this for a fact, and it certainly didn't come from the Maltese. But perhaps the rats ate that bone as well.
Rats.
Of course, it is possible that the Maltese coroner was sloppy and careless and arrogant and took all Mike's main organs out to do the autopsy on them and then forgot or didn't care to put them back.
Oh, God, really?
The conspiracy theorists
I think that's the
might
most
conclude
likely.
the organs were put back because they showed a cause of death, which the Maltese want to keep under wraps.
Yeah.
The tourism industry is vital for the country after all, and any evidence of a violent crime would be something else Maltese officials would have wanted to keep out of the
I'll
news.
be honest, this is not doing a great thing for me wanting to go there.
Yeah, it's not ideal. But to be fair, we didn't see any evidence of this when we were
One would hope not.
Yeah, we would have told you well before.
Imagine if you did. God.
Oh, God, could you imagine? No. Maybe like an art sculpture made out of hyoid bones.
Oh, God.
In November 2017, Bernd returns to Malta looking for answers and hoping to speak to the investigators. However, he gets the runaround. The lead investigator, Inspector Butters, we were talking about Maltese names.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, they've got funny
English,
names,
I
haven't
think.
they? Yeah.
Inspector Butters. Inspector Butters cannot be reached as she is in court. When he tries to see a judge to get access
That's
to
okay,
all of the
because
case
Inspector
files.
Margarine, she's available.
Yeah, she's a bit
Can't
plastic
believe
though.
it's not.
When he tries to see a judge to get access to all of the case files, he is told the judge is off sick. No authority in Malta wants to talk about Mike. Unperturbed, Bernd enlists the help of a German diplomat in Malta who manages to get a hold of the file of Mike Mansholt. Now, Brace yourselves, because this will shock you. The official file misses important documents, such as the autopsy results and photos of the scene where Mike was found. I mean, why would they be in there? Burnt is filled with emotion, but focuses...
I'm sure it wasn't positive emotion.
There are a lot of words that were used to describe his emotions, and I thought, I don't want to project those onto him, but I can only imagine what he was going through. But yes, very not positive. So anyway, he focuses on what he needs to do and drives around the island to visit all of the places again. He meets the volunteers from the days of the search. Together they drive out to the cliffs. He places a plaque on the place where Mike was found under the cliffs, as well as flowers. The plaque says, "Mike Mansholt, you are loved and missed." Burnt then offers a €10,000 reward for any information on where Mike's organs, backpack, GoPro and belongings are, as well as any of the other contents of the backpack. And on top of that, Burnt offers a €10,000 reward for whomever can prove how Mike has died. Burnt then gets inundated with calls, which all lead to nothing. He even goes as far as writing letters to the head of the police and to the president of Malta looking for answers. He wants full access to the file about his son's death. The case is still open in Germany, however, has been closed out in Malta. The Germans keep up the pressure, and in January 2018, the Maltese ambassador and government reopen the case. The first documents arrive shortly afterwards in Germany. Local media pick up on the story, and politicians in parliament start to discuss the matter, and utter doubts are shared about the official findings. In April of 2018, Burnt finally receives the entire file on his son's death, including the autopsy results and the photos. Aside from a new 3D spatial analysis of the location of the body, there is only info about the day of the discovery. There is still no detailed autopsy report. There is only one single page which summarises the known statements: missing organs, animal feeding, cause of death unknown, and the file does not contain a single photograph of the site or the corpse. Burnt recalls that on the 26th of July, masses of photos were taken on the cliffs. The photos could, at the very least, prove that Mike was wearing the GoPro on his belt when he was found, but no such photos made it into the case file. Burnt is convinced that the Maltese authorities are on purpose not releasing the complete picture of the investigation. However, a new Maltese judge also rules that Mike fell off a cliff and died. Malta considers any other scenario a conspiracy theory. Furthermore, German prosecutors rule that there are many inconsistencies in the case, but they also hit a brick wall and can do nothing more. To this point, they've been working diligently to get answers. And the German newspaper Welt am Sonntag, which is
mein Handy, Welt am Sonntag.
Sunday news, or... So they did a lot of research in the case and found it difficult to get any further comment. So they chased a few different people. The Maltese forensic physician, who would seem has the most explaining to do, remained silent. The policewoman, who repeatedly rebuffed Burnt's request, did not even respond. There was no reply from the Prime Minister's office. However, bear in mind that the Prime Minister at the time was
the same
Joseph
guy
Muscat.
may or may not have
from my
blown
last
up.
story.
That shit going on.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on in Malta at this time. The Maltese police announced later that, objectively speaking, there was no doubt about the fairness, independence, and objectivity of the investigation.
That's right. There was no doubt. There wasn't any. There is no doubt that there was no fairness, objectivity.
Correct. Yes.
And
independence. Yeah. Given all of this, and understandably, Burnt is exhausted and demoralised. He decides to stop pushing for more answers and to focus on his family and remaining children instead. He thinks that we will never know for sure what happened to Mike and doesn't want to listen to any more lies. And he's right. It's unlikely we will ever know what happened to Mike. However, there are a number of theories. Would you like to run through those?
Sure.
I mean, the correct answer is yes. The first one, and Schmitty, you touched on this earlier, the absence of all his major organs makes some people suspect organ theft. The theory goes that Mike was killed for his organs, then stitched up and dumped, making it look like he had an accident. And there was that anonymous tip about the location of Mike's body. The biggest hole in the theory is, why would organ traffickers go to the trouble of placing the body where they did? Wouldn't they just make it disappear, destroying any possible evidence? And even if there were organ traffickers on the island, it seems far more likely they'd go for a local rather than the young, white, affluent-looking German whose disappearance would definitely create a media sensation.
True.
It's also worth noting that organ trafficking is not something Malta is known for. So we probably don't want
it's
to
just
cast
known for
those
corruption.
assertions at Malta.
And super yachts.
Correct.
Where are the hotspots for
And
organs?
super yachts.
Where is known for organ trafficking?
Organ trafficking, that's what I
I didn't go into that, but funny you should ask. And also, your mate Scarlett Blog, who did a very good job of this, did make a point of saying that if this was in South America, it might be more plausible. Another option is Maltese journalist Dr. Veronique Daly, classic Maltese name, Swanee, believes that something sinister happened and that Mike was killed and his body was planted below the cliff. Burnt also believes that the only plausible scenario is that Mike met foul play. He believes there were at least two people at the scene, Mike and the person who took the backpack. Police and forensic medicine specialists in Germany cannot rule out third-party fault causing Mike's death. They were able to rule out death through injury of the skull. He did not suffer any blunt force trauma or a gunshot wound to the head. But other causes of violent death remain all possible, especially internal bleeding or suffocation. And because the hyoid bone was missing, it is impossible not to rule out if Mike was strangled.
It's impossible to rule anything out. Literally, they've done a great job of covering it up, whatever it was. Even if it was innocent. But it's just all this nonsense, like removing the organs and refusing to give any information and having no photos and all the rest of it. Like, it could have been an accident, but now no one's ever going to believe that.
Yeah, correct. So there's also theories that he was accidentally shot, and between the rocks of the cliffs there are iron bars where they attach food to attract birds, so they lie in waiting and kill the birds. And so there's theories that perhaps he was shot by somebody who was bird shooting, and there were cartridge cases
There's
around.
no evidence of shot.
However,
gunshot wounds to him.
there's no evidence of shots in the body.
Of what's left of the body.
And exactly. So suicide was another option, or death by suicide. However, that was pretty much ruled out by everyone because Mike was happy. His life was full of plans. He was in love and without any signs of mental illness or depression. However, medication, poison or suffocation cannot be ruled out or proven because of the missing organs. There's also an interesting one around dehydration or sunstroke, which goes something along the lines of, he's completely exhausted from cycling around the island. He's weakened and had not had enough water to drink. He rides to the top of the cliffs and at some point gets a flat tire. He then encounters a narrow path that winds down. It leads through a wide open gate, which is actually there. Perhaps Mike made his way along the path to where it ends in front of a rock face. This is near where the police found his body. Mike's bike hung a few feet above that spot in the bush. His sunglasses and sports shoes were a little farther down, so he may have taken them off due to the heat. While hot, exhausted and dehydrated, he didn't know what to do. Should he cycle all the way back, especially with a flat tire? He was an experienced climber, so it's possible that he could have had the crazy idea to climb the 30 metres with the mountain bike on his shoulders, then fainted, dropping his bike. He then lies down in the shallow of the boulder, and then he may have succumbed to heat stroke or dehydration. It's a stretch, but it's possible.
Imagine thinking that of all the things that you've said so far, I still thinking I might just crawl up that mountain and have my bike on my back. Even if I was an accomplished climber, I would be like,
Never.
yeah, I'll get a shot.
Yeah, that should work. I've seen that in a movie. And then there's the one of the accidental fall, which is the Maltese version, which just seems highly unlikely. But I think the bit where that may fit is that he wasn't dead on impact and managed to drag himself under the rock ledge. He removes his shoes, but it's weird that his bike wasn't badly damaged.
And no brakes, and he only had a bit of a shoe mark on one bit and a scratch here. Yeah, like not enough damage to his body to suggest he's fallen from a height.
Yeah, these scenarios work on the assumption that the missing organs were due to the incompetence of the medical examiner, either forgetting to put them back in or donating them on behalf of Mike. And also, he didn't embalm the body properly. But if this occurred, why not just own up to it? Why cover it up? In 2015, our journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia, who has since been murdered, obviously, well, as listeners to our show would know, reported on the Maltese doctor and parliamentarian Etienne Grec, who boasted that as a medical student, he often took organs from the morgue home to study in peace. So she's kind of noticed that there's some odd stuff going on. What I think has most likely happened, and it's not very definitive at all, is that he was killed by a third party, either deliberately or accidentally. They then placed his body where it was found, staging it to look like he fell, and stole his backpack with the valuables. And there are two other cases that led me to think that this is more likely. So on the 9th of May 2015, little over a year before Mike's death, another man was found dead on the Maltese rocks under similar circumstances, although not identical. So 22-year-old Dutchman Justin Plett had been working in a casino in Malta as a gaming employee before policemen found his lifeless body in the early morning on the rocks of St George's Cresta Key, near Paceville, fully clothed and in the fetal position facing the sea. There were scratches and blue spots visible on his face and hands. His family instantly suspected that the lively young man had been drugged and robbed that night. His wallet and mobile phone were missing. The autopsy found that Justin had suffered a heart attack, but the cause of it has yet to be established. Until this day, his parents, Eric and Margit, believe that Justin was drugged before being robbed, and the drugs caused his heart failure.
If you believe the autopsy.
They pointed to a similar incident.
Because I'm starting to question the validity
Correct.
of autopsies in Malta. Yeah.
So, yes. So they pointed to a similar incident, and the second one that I was referring to, that same weekend involving a Spanish-Italian young man. When I say the same weekend as Justin's death, not Mike's, involving a Spanish-Italian young man who had woken up in a nearby spot with his phone, wallet, and ID card missing, and he claimed he had been drugged. His parents said that he described being like a puppet with no will. So there was also a number of other deaths of people on the island that have gone on for years. You know, people who died when they're in a bus and low-hanging branches took them out.
What?
And then there was a woman who was riding a bike and hit by a cement mixer. So, like, the point of it is there were these deaths that happened, and they've been fighting to work out what's gone on and, you know, for a decent explanation for, 4 or 5 years. So, Schmitty, to your point about the autopsies, there's some form in this space. So I think that's possibly most likely what happened. The bit I can't work out is the loss of organs. So, was it a stuff up by the coroner or a cover-up? Partially because I just don't understand why you'd go to such lengths to hide a stuff up. Although, granted, we have seen that people will go to extraordinary lengths at times for this sort of thing. And the other thing is that given it did happen around the same time as the murder of Daphne, we know there's some red-hot examples of corruption from the government. So it's possible, but unlikely, that the Maltese officials instructed the coroner to get rid of the evidence of this crime in order to protect the tourist industry on the island. I can't understand why you would do that. There's no evidence of that, but a couple of things I read alluded to that being a possibility. So also to close out, I just wanted to finish on Mike. So on September the 4th, 2016, Mike's ashes were strewn out into the Jade Bight Bay of the North Sea, close to his hometown. His father burnt hopes that Mike will now always be close to him on every shore of this earth. And that is the story of the tragic and
scary,
disheartening story of Mike. It's scary, isn't it?
I don't like that one. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
I don't like it.
Oh, I'm not comfortable with the missing organs. I'm not comfortable with that at all. You've given me one of those ones, Clarky, that makes me bristle. It's sort of like I'm not comfortable with any of it. There's no answers for that. Those poor parents.
Yeah.
Oh my God, if you haven't suffered enough, a couple of answers would go a long way, right, to understanding what had occurred and just so you can never put it behind you, but so you can deal with it. And there's nothing for them except a fucking web of lies and, half truths, I guess maybe is probably a better way of looking at it, and information that suits different players at different times. It's awful. Those poor, poor people.
I think you're right. And it's not only, the death is hard enough.
So there's stuff afterwards that's worse.
That run around like, people understand murders happen and that governments aren't necessarily responsible for them. But an autopsy, to lose all the organs and to not get embalmed. And
the thing that annoys me with the autopsy situation is that they entirely and immediately implied that the organs were never there to start with when the body has arrived. To say they've been eaten, it suggests that, oh, no, that's just how we found it, with everything bar a bit of colon and a bit of diaphragm left. What? Like, it's vivisected, and you're trying to tell me animals did that?
How'd they get the organs out without biting? I mean, it just doesn't make sense, does it?
They were there.
And you would take photos of that anyway.
Oh, that's why there's no photos in the file.
Say, here's what the body
That's why there's
like
nothing, because it's like, then that proves that there are actually organs when it got here, and
But if you'd got there and there were,
obviously, our new assistant, our intern assistant, got a bit overexcited and donated them for science or something, or chucked them in the bin. But just tell someone, just say, look, I'm sorry, they were destroyed.
That's what I think.
We had them, but they were destroyed.
That happens. Things do go wrong, But if it was missing at the time, whatever else, that crime scene when they first got there would have been very different, and
they would have possibly thought it was a murder.
They would have been losing
immediately.
their shit, right, and going, oh my god, we've got an animal on the loose.
We've got a hollowed out body here.
We've got someone's on the island. This is trouble.
This is
right?
not. Oh, I'm sorry. He's died from head exhaustion, and this is the state of a body that we typically find with no organs when someone's died of heat exhaustion. What?
Yeah.
This wasn't spontaneous combustion.
They wouldn't have been running around not saying anything either. That would have been all the news.
That's it,
like the policeman wouldn't be going, I'm not sure if I saw his GoPro on his belt because I was blown away by the fact that there was nothing there to...
I was a bit distracted by the void.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
So anyway, I'm sending everyone who works in the forensic medical fraternity back to school. They need to seriously go through a couple of certs, one to advanced diploma and then a bachelor's and then an honours degree. They can go back to school
got
for
cert
30
one in
years.
Do you have that at like the TAFE? Cert 1 in embalming?
Well, I reckon someone who did cert 1 in embalming would have done a better job than these jokers.
Right? I've got my cert 1 autopsy studies.
Is it only cert 1?
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to make it as nice as possible.
All you learn in that is handling of formaldehyde.
Cert 1 in Malta.
No. You just got to learn your handling of formaldehyde.
Where'd you get your degree? Malta? Oh, yeah, I've studied.
Ooh, cutting. That's the new insult.
I was thinking of you the other day, Schmitty. I saw this meme and it was like, I'm wondering aloud, do students in the US walk around with, sweatshirts on that say such and such TAFE, like we walk around, we say, Harvard or Yale or whatever, all that sort of thing. And I was gonna send you one asking about a particular educational institution that you know of.
At one point we thought about creating shirts, and I can tell you that a lot of our students have uniforms with our brand on it. So the answer is yes.
Oh, yes,
they do. Yeah, and they're quite proud of it. Anyway.
That's not really the point. It's not the point was that people who have nothing to do, no affiliation with the school or whatever else, they're the ones who do wear it. So it would be people in the US wearing...
I know what you mean. Just people who've never gone to Harvard and buy the Harvard
of course.
Shirts. Right.
It's like, all these Australians wandering around with,
It's a new market. Yeah.
I'm guilty. We've done it in our house, that's for
UCLA.
Sure. Yeah. I've done that actually, yeah. I remember going to UCLA to get a sweatshirt. I think I honestly wore it for 10 years. It just lasted. It was incredible. Anyway, so I'm as much to blame as anyone on that.
Valletta TAFE, Cert 1.
I like it. Cert 1, autopsy.
Not worth the paper it's printed on.
Autopsy.
Yeah, formaldehyde handling.
Maybe it was like,
Valletta TAFE.
When you pull something apart and you've got to put it back together.
This is too hard.
And you just
I think they could have shoved it. Couldn't they have shoved them back in?
I've tried 3 times. I knew I should have taken a photo before I did this.
The knee bone's connected to the thigh bone. What goes here?
But there's not a song about organs.
No.
It's crazy the work that someone it's got to be someone's done on that corpse, though. Bloody hell.
Maybe they just got angry. They tried for hours to put it all back together and just fucking lost their shit.
Tragically, probably it was
Not
much
possible.
more lazy than that. They were just like, take it all out. Okay, get rid of it. And, we'll just send it to Germany. Yeah. Oh, shit, we haven't put them back in. Don't embalm it. It'll all be soupy by the time it gets there. No one will notice.
Yeah. Feed them to the rats, and then we can say the rats ate them.
Well, honestly, lying. I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, I know, to go that far, but the whole story is such nonsense. As in the story that the forensics or the medical examiner has come up with.
Yeah. And I'm so biased by the Daphne case that I did last time. When I look at this, I just go, I can see so many things that I would normally discount because
you think you're dealing with in a different reality.
I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
Like,
and I got to second what Swanee said earlier. I'm not going to Malta in a hurry after these stories.
No, I don't know if you guys have doing like the anti-tourism. No, I'm in no hurry to get there now. Sort your shit out.
I totally expect to go back at some point, but yeah, I understand maybe why others wouldn't.
I think you're probably right. I think his initial death would have been. It's less likely to be accidental, maybe a robbery or someone's killed him. Just you're right, it happens, and they've stolen things. But from the moment that from the moment that someone reported him missing, nothing was handled well.
No.
4 days before the family discovered that he's missing. And he's 17. No one's contacted his mother or anything like that, or the girlfriend who was there, nothing like that. Then you've got just this kind of cack handling of everything. Oh, it's just a comedy of errors in some ways, except that no one accepts that there are errors or admits to errors. And clearly that corruption is all the way through. Like no one is going to say anything. They're all holding ranks and going, no. Nothing to say. I'm not even going to answer the phone.
Just nothing to see here. Yeah.
And that's why I can totally see how the tourism minister has KPIs and these things don't go with the KPIs. And given what we spoke about in the last story from Malta, maybe that shit does go on there. Because it's just such a whole lot of dumbassery otherwise. Like, did that many people get it wrong?
They can, I think. All right, so to sentencing.
Go on, Swanee.
I don't know. I normally work out who I'm most angry with. Can you sentence an entire country? Sorry, that sounds... Oh, now I'm going to come across it as
I'm
racist
at that
then.
point, like a regime or...
Oh, God, that was very topical. I shouldn't have said that.
Maybe a coup. Let the people rise up and get rid of all these corrupt people.
People are entitled to the truth, right? That's what's awful about the situation is I'm sure that people have lovely lives and it all goes on, but, things get to a point where that does start to impact and impinge on all of their lives and the way things are run, because then people never really know.
You can't trust anything around you.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking at one point, I wondered if it was somebody in these, these crows, it would take one person who was somehow connected, someone's son or daughter did something they shouldn't have done, and then so they're trying to get rid of it, and it has echoes of that kind of thing where you think, oh, what would they stop at? Well, these people don't stop at anything until someone's dead. They just try and murder their way through things that are an inconvenience for them to continue to do what they do. It's an interesting story, but I don't quite know how to punish.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because we're not even thinking of sentencing and judging the person who may have done the murder, because it's all just about the incompetency again. And I think in corrupt regimes, people get to the point where they don't want to speak up. They don't want to say anything because – and someone actually said this to us when we were in China, and I'm not saying they're a corrupt regime, but – the best thing to do is to not get noticed, right? As soon as you get noticed, then everything changes. So you don't want to speak up. And Swanee, in your last story, we kind of heard that from the deputy attorney who said, she got killed because she gave evidence effectively, even though it was only evidence that linked him to being part of a gang. Why would you speak up? Why would you
just
do
want
anything
to be invisible, wouldn't you?
Those are the consequences?
Nothing to look at here. I'm not looking. I'm not. But I totally agree with that. It'd be horrifying.
So if you're in the medical fraternity and this happens, what do you do? Do you say what you think should have happened, or do you just shut up and go, not my pay grade?
The company line. Is there anyone that you want to sentence, Schmitty?
Me?
Well, I was originally, for a while there, pretty annoyed with this, whoever has done this autopsy or has, been putting this smoke screen in front of the family. So in a very harsh way, I was going to put them in the car that Daphne was driving for a bit, which does seem pretty harsh, I know. So then I thought, well, that's probably a bit mean. So, I think maybe I'm just going to have to send them to start again and go back to school. Yeah, which is pretty painful in its own right. But not at Malta TAFE. They have to start somewhere else, somewhere perhaps more reputable, with more compliance, stringent compliance around learning.
So I reckon the coroner, whoever it was that did the autopsy, should be sentenced to a life from this point on of incompetency, but not of themselves, but of every dealing they have with other people. So they just can't get a straight answer with anything. So whenever they try to, take money out from the bank, it's so frustratingly difficult because of incompetence. Or, they go to the doctor and get misdiagnosed 48 times before they realise that they've got the flu and just need to rest for 2 days. Or just that constant frustration, because to me, that's the crime. That there have to be photos of what that body looked like when it came in. Yeah. And there have to be photos of what it looked like at the end. And, there should be so many photos from that autopsy.
Yes.
And all they need to do is look at them and be honest and go, here's what happened. And that takes away, it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't make the death easier, but it takes away all of that angst that gets created otherwise. And I think they need to suffer that from this point on.
So yes. It's a punishment of mediocre administration. I swear I must have done something similar at some point in my life, because I suffer from mediocre administration as a punishment.
It's the most infuriating thing, isn't it?
I'm thinking it's pretty harsh, so I think it's a good sentence, yeah.
I can't stand that when someone didn't die, let alone I would be total Michael Douglas in falling down if that happened to me. I don't know how people hold their shit together. Yeah.
Thank you for another really frustrating and sad story. Really appreciate it, Clarky. Feel like, you had the Greek one was hilarious, and now you've just slipped back and returned to form, but never mind. And as we say every week, miss you already.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ta-ta.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.